Good evening. Welcome to worship on this day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. We're going to go ahead and gather our offering right here at the beginning. Sheltons are going to grab that while we have some opening announcements. I want to welcome you to our second night of our Lenten season. It is great to see you all. It's great to be back with you. Full disclosure, if you were here last week, I was not in fact waving from Cancun, but I did the next morning. And Vicky said it. I watched the video. She's like, he says he's waving. I waved the next day, but close enough. Want to give a special welcome. I know we have a few guests that are with us tonight that maybe have not been with us before. We're glad that you've taken this time to join us in this. Want to give a reminder of to have both your bulletin and check your date. It's always good to check your date just to make sure we don't have one that slid through like it wasn't supposed to. Should be February 28th, 2024. I think we're actually going on like 2 years since we've had one that was the wrong date now, so we're doing pretty good. But I always like to give that reminder, and then also a reminder to have your copy of Holden Evening Prayer. Once worship is done, if you will leave your copy of Holden in the box in the back so we can continue to reuse that, that will be spectacular. I want to give a big thank you to the Sunday school teachers for serving the meal tonight. Holy cow, was that soup good or what? Yeah? It was great. It was really great. So a big thank you to them. Also, a reminder for Holden, when we are singing, we are making a joyful noise, and I am saying that for my own benefit more than anyone. I haven't sung this for a year now, so we all know this could be a little bit weird. Yeah? Yeah. But as always, just join in when you're comfortable, and we will have that time together. We're going to go ahead and get started now. We'll begin with Holden Evening Prayer, beginning on page 2. Jesus Christ, you are the light of the world, the light no darkness can overcome. Stay with us now, for it is evening, and the day is almost over. Let your light scatter the darkness, and shine within your people here. Joyous light of heavenly glory, loving glow of God's own face, you who sing creation's story, shine on every land and race. Now as evening falls around us, we shall raise our songs to you. God of daybreak, God of shadows, come and light our hearts anew. In the stars that grace the darkness, in the blazing sun of dawn, in the light of peace and wisdom, we can hear your quiet song. Love that fills the night with wonder, love that warms the weary soul, love that bursts all chains asunder, set us free and make us whole. You who made the heaven's splendor, every dancing star of night, make us shine with gentle justice. Let us each reflect your light. Mighty God of all creation, gentle Christ who lights our way, loving Spirit of salvation, lead us on to endless day. May God be with you all, and also with you. Let us sing our thanks to God. It is right to give God thanks and praise. Blessed are you, Creator of the universe. From old you have led your people by night and day. May the light of your Christ make our darkness bright. For your word and your presence are the light of our pathways. And you are, I'm going to kill that one. You're the light and life of all creation. Amen. Okay. I knew I would mess one up. Let my prayer rise up like incense before you, the lifting up of my hands as an offering to you. O God, I call to you. Come to me now. Oh, hear my voice when I cry to you. Let my prayer rise up like incense before you, the lifting up of my hands as an offering to you. Keep watch within me, God. Deep in my heart may the light of your love be burning bright. Let my prayer rise up like incense before you, the lifting up of my hands as an offering to you. All praise to the God of all, creator of life. All praise be to Christ and the Spirit of love. Let my prayer rise up like incense before you, the lifting up of my hands as an offering to you. Now I invite you to join in reading responsively from Psalm 119 as printed in your bulletin. Remember your word to your servant, in which you have made my hope. The arrogant utterly deride me, but I do not turn away from your law. Hot indignation seizes me because of the wicked, those who forsake your law. I remember your name in the night, O Lord, and keep your law. The Lord is my portion. I promise to keep your words. When I think of your ways, I turn my feet to your decrees. Though the cords of the wicked ensnare me, an angel went from God to a town called Nazareth, to a woman whose name was Mary. The angel said to her, Rejoice, O highly favored, for God is with you. You shall bear a child, and his name shall be Jesus, the Holy One of God Most High. And Mary said, I am the servant of my God. I live to do your will. My soul proclaims your greatness, O God, and my spirit rejoices in you. You have looked with love on your servant here, and blessed me all my life through. Great and mighty are you, O Holy One. Strong is your kindness evermore. How you favor the weak and lowly one, humbling the proud of heart. You have cast the mighty down from their thrones and uplifted the humble of heart. You have filled the hungry with wondrous things and left the wealthy no part. Great and mighty are you, O faithful one. Strong is your justice, strong your love. As you promised to Sarah and Abraham, kindness forevermore. My soul proclaims your greatness, O God, and my spirit rejoices in you. You have looked with love on your servant here, and blessed me all my life through. Our story for this evening comes from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verses 32 through 38. For ask now about former ages, long before your own, ever since the day that God created human beings on the earth. Ask from one end of the heaven to the other. Has anything so great as this ever happened, or has its like ever been heard of? Has any people ever heard the voice of a God speaking out of a fire as you have heard and lived? Or has any God ever attempted to go and take a nation for himself from the midst of another nation, by trials, by signs and wonders, by war, by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, and by terrifying displays of power, as the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? To you it was shown so that you would acknowledge that the Lord is God. There is no other besides him. From heaven he made you hear his voice to discipline you. On earth he showed you his great fire, while you heard his words coming out of the fire. And because he loved your ancestors, he chose their descendants after them. He brought you out of Egypt with his own presence, by his great power, driving out before you nations greater and mightier than yourselves, to bring you in, giving you their land for a possession, as it still is today. Here we go. Dick, you want to jump in?
So I think maybe we should just record our sessions where we talk about this, in your office.
Yeah, we were all over the map when we were talking about that.
That is true. That wouldn't be good.
Yeah.
So this is Moses, kind of in the same position that Joshua was in stopping and telling his people to remember all the wonderful things that God has done.
Yeah, I appreciate this. So this passage is part of a much larger address, much larger. You guys think I get long-winded on Sundays. Moses talks for like 50 chapters, so it goes on for a really, really long time. And the setting of this, the setting of the book of Deuteronomy, it's at the end of the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. And the people are just about to cross the Jordan River and begin to go into the Promised Land. And in a lot of ways, this is an echo of our overarching story that I know Vicki talked about last week just a little bit out of Joshua, although Joshua is a whole generation later. And so what's really interesting about this is an entire generation has come and gone, and God has been with them this entire time, as Moses says in this brief portion that we shared, helping them to remember all these different things that God had done in their midst and before them and before the nations in Egypt. And so they're taking this moment to stop and to remember. That's really the call, to remember.
Which really goes together with what we talked about last week with stop and remember. And we asked last week what the importance of stopping was, and we kind of related it a lot to just the Lenten season about stopping and coming away from all the busyness and junk in your lives for a little while. But this takes it a step further and asks to remember. So they're being asked in this passage to remember all the great things that God did in helping them get to the Promised Land, and the burning bush and the crossing with the Red Sea parting and all that stuff, all those amazing things. So we ask, why is it important to remember? So I think there would probably be some danger in, after all those things happened and they got where they were going, to say, okay, we've got it made, and maybe to forget about God and forget about just the wonders that he had done and how he is with them and there are things still expected of them.
Yeah, another larger portion of the book as a whole is not only remember these things that God has done, but also remembering the law, remembering the traditions that God had set for them a generation ahead, that they've spent the last 40 years doing, and yet recognizing that this is part of who we are. This is part of who God has made us to be, and it's almost like they need that breather to stop and remember that before moving on to the next thing. I know our overarching theme is talking about moving from one thing into the next. And this is a good reminder for us that we need to do that. We need to stop and do that. And to remember, I think to remember the promises that God has made, to remember that God has been with us before. I'm going to share that little snippet from this. So, full disclosure, if it's not wildly apparent, I'm as nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rockers today, because I was gone last week and this is the first one for me, and I'm trying to remember how to lead all this stuff. And Vicki and I were talking this morning, and she's like, you just seem a little off. And I'm like, I'm a little nervous today. and yet, we've done this together as a community for years and years and years. We've sang. You guys are getting really good at Holden, by the way. You're getting really good at it. So I'm very, very proud of you. But we've done this, and it's a joyful thing for me, when I stop and remember, oh yeah, this is a good thing. This is not something to be worried about. And I think that's human nature, maybe. Yeah?
Sure.
Someone
Yeah.
agreed? I heard it. I don't know who it was, but someone did.
Well, when we stop and remember the things of our own lives, the things that get to us, or the bad stuff that we've been through, thinking about how we got through it, thinking about God being there, guiding us and protecting us or comforting us, whatever the occasion and case may be. We think about the great times in our lives when really good things have happened, and what God's place in those times are as well, and then carry those through and remember that He's always there with us. But then we also talked about, why do we have to keep being reminded all the time of how good God is, or how faithful to us, and how merciful, how giving, how loving, how everything He is? Why do we have to keep being reminded and kind of stray away and then come back and go back and forth? And
Well, we're all the prodigal son, aren't we?
we are that.
In one way or the other. But another thing that we talked about that we were reminded of is this story of Moses speaking to the Israelites is one of many times that we have throughout the first 5 books of the Bible, but numerous times throughout the Old and New Testament, when God says, stop, remember these things. And it is that human nature that we were talking about. Another thought that came to mind for me, and this is going to sound a little maybe mean to our teenagers for just a second, but I will instantly throw myself under the bus too. The entire world's right here when you're 17, 18, 19 years old. But at 44, it's still kind of the same way. And everything is still right here. And sometimes we get so caught up in whatever we're facing in that moment, especially if it's overwhelming, that we need that reminder of who we are, but more importantly, I think, whose we are, and that God has claimed us.
Well, it's like what you're facing, like you say, everything is right there, and it's hard to see beyond that, hard to look forward, hard to see what's going to come, and hard to see how we're going to get there. So a lot of remembering, I think, might be is knowing where we've been, so to help us know where we're going to go.
And maybe to also remember that we didn't know where we were going at that point either. Yet somehow we still managed.
Yeah.
We've survived this long, so maybe God is still with us.
Okay, well.
Do we want to throw it out to them?
Sure, yeah.
Questions?
Yeah.
Comment? This is the
Comments.
dangerous part.
Additions, corrections.
No, they can't correct us.
What thoughts does that bring to mind, maybe in your own life or in your own experience? I think about when we talk about having to keep being reminded, I think about being a parent and how many times you have to remind your kids of stuff, and how impatient, how easily it is to get impatient, but think of how patient God is with us, and that He still loves us, and I don't know, I just often relate that to our own parenthood with our kids, and think about how much we love them and the things that we would do for them, and then we realize more maybe how God feels about us. I don't know. That's a little off the track.
I like it.
I think the older you get too, your vision changes. Instead of being right here in front of you, it's more in the rearview mirror.
So maybe as we get older, the remembering part is easier or just more prevalent? Okay.
You dream about that. I dreamt about hogs last night.
I want to comment.
I don't even
Dick.
know
I'm
how
not
to
going
respond to
I'm
that.
not going to.
I don't even know what to say.
Load of hogwash, if you ask me. Yeah, Carol. and the gift of being able to remember that and to carry that maybe reassurance into whatever it is that we're facing now. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else? Okay.
Well,
Much easier to face the good times and God than it is to have the bad things happen in our lives and then wonder sometimes, are you there, God?
Yeah, that's a good point, Judy. And that raises a thought for me that one thing that I appreciate a lot about the scriptures as a whole, and really the book of Psalms. Psalms is a wonderful example that at times I think the stories that we find in the scriptures are seemingly just as much about the apparent absence of God as it is the presence of God and the knowledge that God is with us. That there are those times, there are gaps in history where for 400 years it's like, oh God, where are you? And God's like, oh, I'm still here. I'm still here. And God remains faithful to those. And those are some of those things that we are also called to remember. Thanks for bringing that up, Judy. Any other comments? Bob?
I think now that I'm retired, I think more about that now during the day, anytime during the day, than I did when I was working because my mind was preoccupied with what I was doing. And now I can be sitting there watching TV and my mind is off someplace else. And I think of somebody like, we've got several community people that are in the hospitals. Well, you get started wondering about one, well, all of a sudden, you say a little prayer for them. And I know I do that more now than what I ever did when I was working.
Which that's a good example of why it's so vital to take those pauses, to take that time to stop. And thank you all for sharing. Are we? I think.
I think that through remembering, we remember and acknowledge who God is and our place in the whole scheme of things and who we are in relationship to God and what our calling is.
And as we remember who God is, then we start to listen. Preview.
Stay tuned for next week.
We'll wrap up with our final bit of Holden, found on page 12, the very back cover. Let us bless our God. Praise and thanks to you. May God create. No, I killed that. I used to be halfway just. May God. I'm just going to read it because I'm done. May God, Creator, bless us and keep us. May Christ be ever light for our lives. May the Spirit of love be our guide and path for all of our days. Amen. Those amens were a little strong. Thank God he's not singing anymore. Go in peace, serve the Lord.